Greetings everyone. The topic for today is a noun clause. Moving towards the definition first, a noun clause is a type of subordinate clause, or we can say dependent clause, that acts as a noun in a sentence. Most of the time, noun clauses begin with a relative pronoun like what or whatever. Now here is the question, like what is a noun clause, or how we can identify the noun clause in a sentence. A noun clause gets its name because it is simply a clause that acts like a noun. A clause is any group of words that contains both a subject and a verb. But noun clauses are a specific type of a clause called a subordinate clause. Also known as a dependent clause, subordinate clauses cannot be used alone and need to join an independent clause. That means sentences with noun clauses will always have at least two verbs because they will always have two clauses. How to use a noun clause? Noun clauses can do anything a regular noun can do. This means that they can act as a subject, they can act as a direct object, they can act as an indirect object, or they can act as a prepositional object or a predicate nominative as well. What is a predicate nominative? For this, I have uploaded a separate lesson and it is present in my playlist. What do noun clauses start with? Noun clauses are easy to recognize if you know what they start with. Noun clauses can begin with relative pronouns and certain subordinating conjunctions. Here is a list of common words that begin noun clauses to help you identify them when reading or use them when writing. Relative pronouns like who, what, where, when, why, how, that, and which. Indefinite relative pronouns. The examples are here: whoever, whomever, whatever, wherever, whenever, and whichever. Subordinating conjunctions if, whether, because, since. All of these are examples of subordinating conjunctions, and I have uploaded a separate lesson related to the conjunction and its types present in my playlist as well. Noun clauses examples are behaving as a subject. The subject is the person or thing that does the main action in a sentence. The subject usually comes at the beginning of a sentence. For example, whoever wins the race gets the trophy. Over here, we know that whenever a sentence is starting or a clause is starting with whomever, whichever, so it will come in our mind that it is a noun clause because all of them will be acting or behaving as a noun in a sentence. Or we can say they are acting as a subject overall. So whoever wins the race, it is a dependent clause. So we know that a dependent clause is a noun clause and it is depending upon the next clause gets the trophy, because until or unless we will not read the next clause, we will not understand the basic or actual meaning of this clause. Whoever wins the race, the question will come in our mind like whoever wins the race, then what will happen? Gets the trophy is the another clause. Whichever you pick is fine with me. Over here, the highlighted or the bold words, whichever you pick, is another clause which is a noun clause and it is depending upon the next clause is fine with me. Noun clause examples with the help of direct object. So the direct object is the noun that receives the action of transitive verbs. Again, related to transitive and intransitive verbs, I have uploaded a separate lesson in the parts of speech. I could not see whether it was a day or night. Over here you can see whether it was a day or night is a direct object example of the noun clause, because whether it was a day or night, it is a dependent clause and it is depending on the previous clause, which is I could not see. The chess player did not know if they could win. Over here, if they could win is again a noun clause, but it is behaving as a direct object in the sentence, and it is a dependent clause as well, and it is depending upon the previous clause. The chess player did not know. We know that whether and if are the examples of, or the clues or the hints for the noun clauses, that if a clause is starting with the relative pronoun or with whether, whomever, wherever. So these are all the examples for the noun clauses. Noun clause example as an indirect object, or we can say that noun clauses behaving as an indirect object. In sentences with transitive verbs, indirect objects receive the direct object. They typically come between the verb and the direct object. In this example, you can see, she told whoever would listen her sad story. Over here, whoever would listen is a noun clause and it is behaving as an indirect object. Look for open teammates. Don't just pass whoever is closest the ball. Over here, whoever is closest is again the example for noun clause, and example it is behaving as an indirect object because it is receiving the direct object action. Noun clause example and behaving as a prepositional object. Nouns act as an objects to prepositions like on, about, or, for, together the preposition and its object form. A prepositional phrase. So we can see our suspect depends on who owns the murder weapon. Over here, on is a preposition, and this whole clause, who owns the murder weapon, which is a noun clause, it is behaving as a prepositional object because on is the preposition and this whole clause is behaving as the object of for preposition. The people want to hear about why you are running for Congress. Over here, about is a preposition and why you are running for Congress is a dependent or a noun clause, which is also functioning as a prepositional object in the sentence. Noun clause example as a predicate nominative. Predicate nominatives are nouns that follow linking verbs like be or seem. Instead of describing an action like other verbs, linking verbs describe the subject. The action is simply existing. Is this what you wanted? What you wanted over here is a noun clause and it is behaving or acting as a predicate nominative. His reasons for being late was that his cat got sick. That his cat got sick is a noun clause and it is behaving as a predicate nominative. Keep in mind the relative pronoun that is often optional and can be removed from a sentence. In the next example, it is still assumed but not stated. His reason for being late was his cat got sick. Noun clauses versus relative clauses. Although both noun clauses and relative clauses can begin with relative pronouns, noun clauses function differently than relative clauses. A noun clause completely replaces an individual noun in a sentence. However, relative clauses don't replace anything, they simply add new information. They modify nouns instead of taking their place. So this is one of the most important or foremost example of the difference between them. Here the examples are shown with the help of the sentences. Noun clause. Karen needs to speak with whoever runs the store. But in relative clauses, Karen needs to speak with the person who runs the store. So there is a major difference in the noun clause that it is replacing the whole noun, and in relative clause it is different. In the first example above, the noun clause Whoever runs the store acts as the object of the preposition with, because preposition is with. But in the second example, the person is the object of the preposition with. So the relative clause who runs the store is an adjective phrase that describes and modifies the person, but does not replace it like a noun clause does. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. Don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel for further updates on grammar topics. Thank you.